Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to a special game that I wanted to show you today. Today I decided to show you a great game played by Abhimanyu Mishra, the US chess prodigy who became the youngest world international master in chess at the age of 10 only. And it's really incredible how Abhimanyu Mishra plays at the age of 10. He plays really a great opening preparation. He has also a great endgame technique, and today I wanted to show you really brilliant game against Jennifer Yu, a female FIDE master who's rated around 2300. But Abhimanyu Mishra, I'm not sure where are his limits, because maybe in 10-12 years he'll become the next world champion in chess. We have really now some great talented players like Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa and many of these chess prodigies, and I'm really looking forward to follow their careers because they're really something else in chess. So let's see the game. Jennifer Yu opened here with the move d4. We have knight to f6 by Abhimanyu, c4, and now g6. After knight to c3 we have d5, the Grunfeld defense, which is really an aggressive opening. It really clears the center immediately. After c takes d5 we have knight takes d5 and now e4. Still common theory, of course. Knight takes c3, b takes c3, and now bishop to g7 with the preparation to play the move c5 and crack the position here. Try to crack white's pawn central control, because white has really this nice central control with the pawns, which are restricting all of the pieces of blacks. Here in the game, knight to f3 was played here, and c5 immediately. So bishop to e3. Still, this is really main theory now. After queen to a5, there is now, of course, the threat to take c takes d4. Then you have to recapture with the bishop or with the knight. You don't have any more this pawn connection. The pawns are not glued together, which is the most important thing. So that's why here queen to d2 was played. If you try something like c takes d4, then we can recapture, and after trades of queens, still you're continuing the game with this pawn central control, which is the most important thing. We could get use of the c file. Bishop to e2 is the possibility, maybe rook to b1, rook to c1, and many great games, great possibilities here for white. So that's why here, after this move queen to d2, Abhimanyu castled simply, and now rook to c1. Here simply bishop to g4, very important positional move. It's also still common theory of the Grunfeld, because the knight is of course the defender of this d4 pawn. So that's why here Jennifer Yu decided to go knight to g5 and then maybe kick away the bishop with the move h3. So here Abhimanyu simply took. We have c takes d4, we have c takes d4, and now knight to c6. Not to take immediately the queen. It's very important because we want to bring the knight on a5, and the most important thing is that then after the move knight to a5 we could get use maybe of this weak square c4. So it's also a common idea of the Grunfeld defense to get our knight outpost maybe on c4 with the support a6 b5, then maybe knight to c4, rook to c8, maybe with the support of the bishop, if the position of course allowed it, and still continue the attack against this weak d4 pawn. So what black is always trying in the Grunfeld defense is to force white to move one of these pawns. For instance, if white moves d5 or e5, then the pawns are not so good anymore, because they are not restricting all of the center squares on the boards. For instance, if you move the pawn on d5, then you leave of course an e5 weakness. If you for instance move the pawn on e5, then you leave a weak d5 square. So the best way for white is to proceed to hang on to our pawn central control with these two centralized pawns, not to push them, but sometimes you have to push them if they get to attack. So here after the move knight to c6 we have queen takes a5, and now knight takes a5. The position is now really simplified, which is a great thing I think for black, because from black's perspective you're always trying to get simplifications to get an equalized position in an early stage of the game. Here h3 was played, kicking away the bishop, and now bishop to d7. Here rook to c7, attacking the bishop, rook to d8, which is also a very good move. Still this pawn is protected, and now we're aiming also against this d4 pawn. So bishop to d2, attacking the knight, but now b6, protecting. Taking out the knight is a possibility here, and maybe try to play knight to f3, hang on to our pawn central control, but still giving up the bishop pair in an early stage of the game, I think, is very dangerous. Still, you haven't castled, so white can be challenged with another rook, with the rook to c1, and maybe then this bishop could be really dangerous with the combination of with the rook, and I think it will be a very, very dangerous opening for white. So in the game, knight to f3 was played, protecting simply this pawn on d4, and now rook to c8. A very important move, challenging now the knight. If you play something like rook to a7, I think we can sneak in with our rook on the second rank and create some dangerous attacks, and maybe even try this knight outpost, knight to c4. As I said, these are the main ideas in the game. Rook to c8 was played. Now rook takes c8, and now bishop to d3. Now white has accomplished, you see, to hang on to this pawn central control, but as I said, white has lost the battle on the c file. Now Abhimanyu uses this moment immediately and plays this very nice outpost with the knight on c4. So if of course you take out the knight, then you're again continuing the game without the bishop pair. The bishop pair in this open position is simply better, so you want to hang on to your bishops, but the problem is that your bishop on d2 is also attacked. So if you try bishop to c3, then we have some discovered attack possibilities with knight to e3 and similarly, so you could weaken further your pawn structure. So in the game, king to e2 was played, finally trying to get this rook into the game, but simply knight takes d2. After king takes d2, you see white has lost the bishop pair here. I think the bishop pair is perfectly fine, and Abhimanyu plays a very accurate move, bishop to h6, because this dark square diagonal is closed because the knight is protecting it. So now we should use our other diagonal, at least get this king out of this protection of this bishop on d3. So that's why king to e2 was played, and now you see how Abhimanyu simply moves forward. He uses all of the best squares on the board, plays simply a nice attacking move, rook to c6, pardon me, c3, and now here we have knight to e4, e5, attacking the bishop on d7, and here simply bishop to a4. So again, you see Abhimanyu is playing simply great attacking chess. Basically, he's playing when he's attacked, again, an active move, which is a great thing, for a 10-year-old. Here bishop to a4, rook to b1, and now bishop to c2, forcing the trades of the bishops. We have rook to b2, and now bishop takes d3, knight takes d3, and now rook to c4, attacking this d4 pawn, and here f4. There is no way to protect anymore this pawn. You see, it's a little bit weird. You can try maybe here to play rook to b4, but then again you get rook to c2, and then you could lose here this a2 pawn. So still, you see, great preparation here by Abhimanyu. You lose the pawn now in the next move here, f4, rook takes d4, simply played, and now king to e3, attacking the king, attacking the rook, rook to c4, now getting our dark square diagonal again open, maybe attacking the rook. Here we have knight to e5, and now rook to c3, again with a very nice check. We have rook to king to d4, attacking the rook, and now rook to c7. We're getting back. We have now an extra pawn, which is a great thing, and now we can again play bishop to g7 and create dangerous attacks on dark squares. Knight to d3, we have in e6. Here we have g4, and now bishop to f8, which is a great move, because if you try bishop to g7, then you get closed anyway with the move e5. So now again Abhimanyu is trying to get use of another diagonal. With a pawn up, you can go even into a favorable endgame. With one pawn up, of course, you cannot lose the game. At least we have g5, and now bishop to c5. We have king to e4, and now king to g7. Very important move. Now we are not allowing this king to go on this very active square f6. Knight takes c5 was played, rook takes c5, and here king to d6, and of course rook to c4, again attacking this weak pawn. So that's why here king to e5 had to be played, but now rook to a4. And if you play these types of endgames like Abhimanyu is playing, one of the main ideas of blacks here is to create two connected pass pawns. So if white, for instance, loses this pawn and maybe gains this pawn, it's not a problem that white has here maybe 4 versus 3 situation. The more important thing is to create these 2 connected pass pawns, because a rook cannot hold on to these 2 connected pass pawns. If black creates these types of positions, it will be a lost endgame. At least here you can try to struggle for a draw. So that's why this rook to a4, a very important move. And now rook to c2 was played, trying to get our rook also maybe on the 7th rank, but it's not possible because, as I said, this pawn is hanging simply. So rook to a5, we have king to d6, and now rook to a3, attacking this weak h3 pawn. So that's why rook to a2 had to be played. You see how Abhimanyu's rook is much more active. This rook on a2 is simply used in order to defend both of these pawns, and here Abhimanyu played a very important move, h5, closes here on the king side, and here g takes h6 was played, king takes h6, but here after h4, at least we have accomplished that we haven't created further pawn islands. You see, we have still these 3 pawns connected, so nothing can happen. Here rook to e3, attacking this weak e4 pawn. We have king to e4, and now king to h5. Very active move, a very nice endgame technique here by Abhimanyu Mishra. Now we're trying to sneak in with the king here on this very active square g4. So king to d4 was played, and now rook to f3, attacking simply this f4 weakness, and now we have again king to e5. And now, of course, king to g4. If you try to check the king with the move rook to g2, then we have rook to g3, and again we can cover. Still, we have a 2 versus 1 situation, so the king is always deflected in order to prevent these 2 pawns from promotion, so the king cannot play freely. On the other hand, here Abhimanyu's king can play much more active, and it's a huge difference in this endgame, because the king is, of course, in an endgame used as an attacking piece, not something that you have defense. So you basically, the king is one of the most important pieces in the endgame. So rook to h1, we have rook to f2, again attacking this weak pawn. Here we have h3, a3, pardon me, rook to e2, attacking the pawn, and now king to f6. This seems now that maybe Abhimanyu has made some mistakes, but now we can simply take out this pawn. After king takes f7, we can take also this pawn in a couple of moves, so white cannot protect both of these pawns. So here king to h5, we have a rook to f1, and now simply pushing this pawn further. It's not a problem. We don't have to lose tempos in order to take this pawn. One of these pawns will always be taken. So first of all, here Abhimanyu hang on to these pawns. He doesn't want to lose any pawns, and he wants to create, of course, now here a pass pawn and deflect this rook here on the b file. Here we have rook to c1. Now finally Abhimanyu took, rook takes f4, and now king takes e6, but now we can take another pawn. It's not a problem. Here we have rook to h1, king to g5, and again another check, but now rook to g4, and we have now a new position in which black is 2 pawns up, and it's basically game over. But let's see the continuation. Rook to c1 was played, a6, rook to c5, and now king to h4. And here in this position, Jennifer, you resigned, because in the next move you'll try something like rook to a4, attacking again this pawn, and simply push this pawn further, because this rook will also restrict the king's ability to play. So if the king cannot participate in the defense, so the king cannot go over the 4th rank, and this is basically game over. So great endgame technique by Abhimanyu. I wish him all of the best in the continuation of his career. The youngest international master in chess history, deserves really all of our respect, and I'll follow his career more. I'll follow also Praggnanandha's career. They are really, I think, the 2 most talented chess players now these days, and we'll see what will happen. I hope just that they're continuing to play. They're really talented, and here I'm pointing again out Abhimanyu Mishra is only 10 years old. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games, and you can also watch my best chess games of all time if you want to see the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.